look what showed up on my doorstep today. It's a box of apples. No, I wouldn't be showing you my box of apples. Not on my YouTube channel. What could be in here? This is really sealed. Maybe it is just a box of apples. I would crack up if this really was apples. Dear Mike, enjoy your apples. Thanks for your purchase. I hope you love it. Well, now you know. Now you know I paid for these apples. What fantastic packaging. Enough bubble wrap to last me. Here it is. I think by now you can see what it is. Oh my goodness, that's heavy. So here's what I think we're gonna do. I'm gonna put the box down here and let's start laying out what's in the box. Oh, this is a healthy piece of metal. This thing's heavy. And it has a cool finish. It's like a dark gray crackle finish. This is an Elson watchmaking lathe. And wow, so this is my first lathe. And well, it spins. That's a good start, right? So let's unpack the box and then we can dive in to the lathe. Let's see what's in here. Yeah, look at that. Very cool. You know, I'm actually surprised this is in as good shape as it is. That feels smooth. Okay, that's a good start. What's this? Here's the tool rest. What is this? This is an L bracket. I'm betting this was used to attach the motor to the base. So I'll tell you what, we'll just sit this over here. Oh, and here's the crazy spring tool thing. I have no idea what this is. And this is a very, very homemade looking base. Looks recycled and vintage. It's held together with nails, flathead screws, and waffle connectors. This is just looking a little bit sketchy. We're gonna put this aside till we can figure out what the white powder is. We're at the bottom of the box. Just a few more packets of goodies. Oh yeah, this is a vintage clamp, and it's the LS Starrett company. I'm not quite sure how we'll use this with the lathe, but that looks vintage. That's pretty cool. We'll figure out something to do with it. Okay. All right, there we go. So that's for the motor. There's no apples, but what else do we have here? Some rubber bumpers. I guess these were the feet. Got some drywall screws, various collets and points. But that's part of the fun, is figuring out what all these are. So there it is. That is the start of my new lathe setup. The lathe, the brand is Elson, and I couldn't find any research on this. This is an Elson 305 lathe. And the only other thing that's labeled is the motor. And the motor says Elson lathe motor model 7, 110 to 125 volts, serial number 688, made in the USA. I gave this base a rattle can spray painting, and part of it was just because I wanted to contain the anything that might be in that really old wood on the bottom. So that got a couple of layers of paint, and then I went for 3 coats of paint on the top of this, and it just cleans it up, and now if you drop a part, it won't be as camouflaged here. I think I left a little bit of the old finish there, and that just wasn't to my tastes. So this is the new and improved. This block here is where the motor will mount, and just the weight of the motor will provide some tension. We'll do a simulation. Okay, so these are hinged. The motor sits here. This pulley shaft will attach there. And then when we get a new belt measured, that will slip like this. We'll adjust the headstock so it lines up. So here we'll simulate slow speed. Big pulley on the motor, small pulley, and as you can see, when it tensions the belt, we're just going to use the gravity of the motor. And there's actually, this is a kind of neat setup. They have a set screw that goes in here. So they actually have a customized angle iron that that set screw will go through. And that mounts here, and then you can adjust the pitch of the motor and therefore the tension of the belt. This, I think, might be a rest for a grinding wheel. It would go like this. The grinding wheel would go through there, and then you can use this as a rest to put an angle on whatever it is that you're grinding, like if you're sharpening. That's what I think this might be. Some of the other things, I have no idea. We have the collets, and we've taken stock of all of the collets that we have. Here's our tool rest, and you can adjust the angle of the tool rest. You can slide it up and down the bed of the lathe. You can raise and lower the rest, lock that in place. And then when you do your work, this flips out of the way if you want to come in here and do your measuring or do your sanding or burnishing on the part. So this tool rest, we will give this a clean up. I'm going to take this off and put it aside. With that unscrewed, this lifts off. And here's a slider. Oh, I just noticed that that is keyed. And is that shaft keyed? Yes, it looks like it is. And let's put this back in place. Just so we remember the orientation, and we'll give everything a good cleaning and a good oiling. The next piece we'll take a look at. This is the tailstock. It slides back and forth. It locks. It has a little screw, not a clutch, but a little, there's a little pressure guide in there. And this tail piece, it has a centering point. I don't know if that center point is removable. Eventually I would like to get something where I can put, for instance, a drill bit in here. And so if I wanted to drill a hole in whatever I'm holding in the chuck, I'd be able to do that and then be able to, where's the unlock, and then be able to advance the drill bit into what I'm cutting. And they have other attachments for the tailstock that lets you lever press and control this movement via a lever. But for right now, this is what I have, and I want to see if I can find out if that point actually maybe unscrews and if it takes other accessories. I also think that the screw on here is broken, and there's just barely enough thread to allow you to get a grip on this. And we remove this. Here's the piece it goes through, and it's a fairly specialized shape. Let me see if we can see it if I just put it there. So I wonder if there's a way to restore this. Right now there's barely enough thread on the top of that. So it is what it is. So we're just going to reassemble this for now. Just enough thread there to lock it in place. Okay, so let's take off the tailstock. And are there any identifying numbers on the bottom of this? I don't see that there are. This lever, ever so slightly, adjusts the plunge depth of that little grabber, and that pulls up on the slot in the bed. Let's take a closer look at the headstock. We have a similar setup here where we have this runner that goes in the groove of the bed, and that locks in place with a quarter turn. Here is the pin. This is just friction fit. This slides into a hole in the frame, and it engages one of the holes in the pulley wheel, and that indexes, and you can index that to different positions to get to either lock it or to get precise increments. For instance, if you're trying to turn 4 sides of a winding stem, you can lock the headstock into those 4 positions at 90-degree intervals. This pulley has some chips in it. Fortunately, they don't carry down to the center of that recess, and it's my understanding that there are some plastic epoxies that you can use to build up the missing material. Right there is a set screw. So when we disassemble this headstock, we'll loosen that set screw, and then we'll be able to dismantle everything going through here. So this is the hollow tube that goes through the center of the headstock. This is threaded internally, so when you put in a collet and you tighten it, it pulls the collet tight into this opening, and it pulls the little jaws tight on your workpiece. There we go, finding the key. And we'll just tighten that down. So that's a closer look at the headstock. And this is going to get a cleanup, maybe some very, very light steel wool here. You know, I might just try some paste wax on the top of here. I use paste wax on the top surfaces of my woodworking tools, like my table saw, my band saw, and we'll do a full cleanup on this really nice finish. It's okay. I mean, there's some chips, for instance, on the tailstock. There's definitely some chipping of the paint, but right now that's not functional. That's just cosmetic. But I can see dirt, and we'll give this all a good cleanup. And again, we'll do the paste wax trick right there and there on the underside of all the sliding beds. Let me, I'll take off this bed from this box and give you a quick look underneath. This is that old wood that was the original frame. And then There's this big wing nut. Wing nut. Spacer. Big washer. I think it's set into the paint. Let me see. There we go. Try not to punch myself in the stomach as this thing comes around. There we go. And there, you can have a look at the threads that mount the lathe. This concludes my official unboxing of my new lathe. Thank you so much for joining me as I continue my watchmaking adventures. So what is next? Well, first is I need to clean up what I have, get the motor running. I want to identify what these parts are. I mean, I've got parts I have absolutely no idea. It could be for something really cool in watchmaking, or it could just be a spare part that someone threw into this batch of tools when I bought the lathe. So I'm going to try to identify what everything is here. And then I'm also going to accessorize. I'd like to get a tailstock that will allow me to drill into the end of a piece of work. So for instance, if I wanted to repivot a balance staff, I have one of those and I want to do that. I'll be able to do that. Of course, I'll want to expand my collection of collets, and it would be nice to be able to do some light grinding, if that is a grinding rest. Getting a cross sled is on my list. Getting gravers is on my list. A way of reliably sharpening them, some kind of handle so I don't put the back of the graver through my palm. Oh my goodness, my brain is so full of possibilities. So that's what I have for you at this time. If you'd like to follow the continued story of this lathe build out, please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and I look forward to your comments in the space below. I'm Mike, the channel is Watch with Mike. I look forward to our next time together.